Hi, thanks for joining me for this next video tutorial. Today we're going to be continuing our series of still life photography. We're going to do something a little different today. We're going to actually work with a glass bottle and some water and food color. We're going to get really creative. Now before we get started on this tutorial, let me point a few things out to you. First, we're in a kitchen. This is not a special studio. We're going to be using materials that are readily available to you around your home. So all you have to do is follow the steps that I'm going to point out to you throughout this video, and you can do this yourself. It's a lot of fun, you can get really creative, and I think you're going to love the results. So with that said, let's get started. Okay, let's take a look at some of the materials we're going to be using today. First, you're going to need a towel to set this bowl on that's going to catch our water. You want to make sure that if anything splashes out, it's covered. We're going to use two different kinds of bottles. We're going to use one that's a tinted green or a green blue, and then we're going to be using one that is a clear. You're going to need some tape, a marker, and you're going to need some type of a hand towel just in case you get some overspill or splash, things of that nature. Let's take a look at some of the other equipment. We're going to be using a Nikon SB800 that's connected to a Pocket Wizard. Now the Pocket Wizard is actually a remote firing mechanism that we're going to use to fire this so we have no cords. We also have a second Pocket Wizard that's going to connect to our camera. And then we're also going to be using a remote release. Okay, that's so that you can actually release the water from the bottle and fire the camera at the same time. You'll notice that I have a white card in the background, which is, you can buy that at any art store. It's really simple, and you probably have one around your house. The other thing is that we're using a light stand, which you can see here. We're using a pole, some type of just rod that will actually hold your little bottle for you. Okay, we're using a clamp, which most people will have a clamp, in their garage. And basically what's going to happen is that we're going to put this material inside of this and photograph this bottle upside down with the water actually coming out of it. Now if you'll notice, this just slides right off, okay? And I just have this clamped onto the bottle. So that's going to enable me to put my water in it and reset it. Now what I've done with my marker is actually mark where I want this. So once I get my camera focused on this, in other words, I'll focus on this first, I will then set this right back where it needs to go so that it's in perfect focus. Okay, let's take a look at our detail of our light stand. What that tape that we've talked about is to actually tape our rod to the light stand. Now you could use a clamp if you have one available. I did it this way because some people may not have access to a clamp, and tape will work fine as long as you put enough of it on there to hold it. Remember, our bottle is not that heavy, so this will hold it with no problem. The next thing that we want to do is actually set our flash to the correct power output, or at least what we think is the correct power output at this point. The first thing you want to do is come in here and make sure that your flash is set on manual. And I have reduced this down to 1/4 of the full output power. Next step is to set our flash up, how we're going to actually light our background. Because what we're wanting to do is have that flash just bounce off the background and come through the glass bottle. Now as you've noticed, I used a coffee can. I also have a black card or some type of a folder that's setting up. That's going to block the light from getting onto my lens from the flash itself so that I reduce any possibility of flare. The next step is to actually fill the bottle with water, or with your colored water, and then you basically just take your finger and hold it over the actual bottle end. And as you can see here, I'm just adjusting this. Now after I have this set where I want it, based on my mark that I put on my pole, I'm going to use my remote release and actually focus my camera directly on this. When I take my finger off, I'm going to start shooting. And basically all I'm going to do is shoot as many shots as I can until the water completely empties from the bottle.
This is the first shot of our series, and I actually did two different images. I did one with green and one with red, and you'll see the red one here in just a moment. But what I want you to pay attention to as far as this shot is concerned is all the bubbles in the bottle, how the water is actually splashing out. And of course, when we shot this, we shot it upside down. So when we finished edited the image, we just rotated it right side up to create the image that you see here. This being our second shot, the red bottle, which is a totally different kind of bottle, we have the same type of effect, a little bit different configuration of the water coming out of the bottle because of the opening, but the same impact and the same vibrancy of the color. And that's the key to making this a successful shoot. In this next image, what I did in post-processing was take both images that we had created, combine them into one layer to create the image you see here. Now, I particularly like it vertical, but you might like it horizontal. The idea here is get as creative as you can. Thanks for joining me for this video tutorial, and I look forward to our next.